Do you want to know what happened in the quarterfinals of Super Rugby? Check out this video. Welcome back to Skinnybru Rugby, guys. As you can see, everything around me looks a little bit different. It is because I am on leave and I'm traveling a bit over the Free State in South Africa. We've been traveling all over the place and we've been at a couple of lion farms and so on. So I've been enjoying my time, and in between I've watched all the games of the quarterfinals. For Superbru, my predictions went really well, 4 out of 4 for me. That means I also won this round on Superbru, and I'm finally at the top of our pool. I've been trying to get it since week 1. Let's have a quick recap of what happened this weekend. First up, it was the Crusaders beating the Highlanders 38-14. As we expected, the Crusaders did win this one, but the Highlanders also, as expected, they really put everything in this game and they just gave it their all. That was proved by the Highlanders as they scored the first try. Both teams really struggled at line-out time, but the difference between the two teams at the end was the Crusaders didn't struggle at scrum time. They were dominant there. So at least one of the set phases actually worked for them. For the Crusaders, Mahunga, again, he was key to their victory. He contributed 23 points of their 38 points at the end, and he just had a stellar game once again. For the Highlanders, the score might have been a little bit different if some things worked in their favor. They tried to work a few cross kicks into that game, and some of those bounces, if they were just a little bit better, guys like Naholo was through for a couple of tries. Mopa, again, he stood out for the Highlanders. It was really a good game from him. He just likes getting the ball into crash ball situations. Ultimately, the Highlanders could be very proud of how they played in that game. They really tried their best, but that yellow card that Squire got, that changed the game. The Crusaders scored a couple of tries in that phase of the game. The first half was pretty even, but as the Crusaders does in the second half, they just came back in Crusader fashion with a lot of strong runs, and the Mauls were just a lot better than in the first half, and they dominated the game from there. The next game was one I had to watch until 2 a.m. in the morning. And afterwards, I was celebrating like one of the biggest Jaguares fans out there. The Jaguares beating the Chiefs 21-16. The Jaguares, they now booked their spot in the semis at home against the Brumbies in front of a big crowd, but it wasn't as full as I would have expected from the Argentinian fans, but hopefully next week they can come out even more. The Jaguares had a try in the first minute, which proved to be the difference between the two sides at the end. For the Chiefs, they turned down a couple of kickable penalties and went for the line, and that was a mistake by them. Their mauls really failed and their lineouts were very poor throughout the game. If it wasn't for a lot of handling errors by the Chiefs, they could have scored a couple of more tries in that game. They looked threatening and then they just knocked on the ball. The Jaguares had more possession in the first half, but the Chiefs early in the second half already led by 8 points. But then the Jaguares turned up and they just turned on the volume and played in Jaguares fashion, and that's when they started looking a lot more dangerous. Guys like Matera, he got a lot of strong runs in that game. Bonilla, he turned defense around with those kicks of his, and then in the second half when they switched from a kicking game to a passing game, he did that really well, and I think he was the difference in that game. He had a very good game for them. And like I said, after the Jaguares turned the game around with a passing game, the Chiefs really struggled to get possession, and when they did get it, it was from a penalty. They kicked at the line and then their line out struggled once again. The last turnover of the match that the Jaguares got, I celebrated like a true Argentinian. I was so proud of the Jaguares. Then the Bulls' season has been brought to an end by the Hurricanes, in which was a pretty good game by the Bulls. The Hurricanes beating the Bulls 35-28. The Bulls looked very dangerous on attack in this game. The first try is proof of that, where they just sliced through the line, Kriel on the outside of Umaga Jensen. Shortly after, Umaga Jensen did make amends though from poor defense on the fringes again from the Bulls, and they scored from there, the Hurricanes. This gave the Hurricanes fans something to celebrate, but the stadium wasn't at full capacity as I would have expected. The second try for the Hurricanes, they also went around the fringes again, around Speckman, who did not have a good defensive game this week. Hendricks though, he had a good game this week. He scored a try or two and he was just very dangerous. But at the end, a lot of handling errors cost the Bulls in this game. Bulls fans, they might be angry that Dwayne's try was not given. It wasn't clear whether the ball was on the line, so it depends on how the referee asked the question. But there was just after that a clear and obvious penalty try given. And if Dwayne's try was allowed, that try wouldn't have happened anyway. So there was a bit of consolation from that try. For the Hurricane, Savea, he had a good game as always. He was just key with those turnovers that he makes. Now they travel over to Christchurch next week to play the Crusaders, and this was just a heartbreaking loss for the Bulls. They really had a very good game. After that, the Brumbies had a convincing win over the Sharks at 38-13. They now book their place in Buenos Aires next week against the Jaguares. The Sharks, as one of my subscribers said throughout the week or last week, he said the Sharks are so inconsistent they might be able to actually win this game, but ultimately that did not happen. The Sharks had a few moments of poor defense in that game, and the Brumbies just capitalized on that. Pete Samu, he had a great game for the Brumbies, but he is now injured and he won't be making the trip to Buenos Aires. They had an early lead, the Brumbies, from a couple of tries, and the Sharks just looked out of it, and the halftime score was 24-6. Second half was a little bit better for the Sharks, but the first time they crossed the try line in this whole game was in the 60th minute. The Brumbies, they did all of this with only 44% possession. They won 10 turnovers in that game, so the Sharks just could not keep the ball. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it's a little bit of a different situation. Thursday's video, I'll probably also not be home yet, so it's probably also going to be from another location. I hope you are also as excited as I am for the semi-finals. And then if you like this video, please consider subscribing. Cheers.